All right, everybody. Thank you for joining the Turtle Art Box subscription. This week we have a radiated tortoise, which in my opinion is the most beautiful tortoise in the world. They're found in the spiny forest of Madagascar and they're critically endangered. And they have these really high domed shells, carapaces, and they have these sunburst patterns all over them. And each tortoise has its own unique sunburst pattern, so it makes it like identifiable. This week we are using acrylic paints. There we go. Acrylics are my favorite paints to use. That's what I paint with the most. So you should have 6 colors, very deserty colors. And you have these brushes, 5 brushes. You also have a piece of palette paper, which is kind of like a wax paper, which we'll mix our paints on. You'll need a paper towel and a cup of water, just like last time. So let's jump right into it. I always paint the subject first, so like the turtle first. It's a backwards from a traditional technique, but that's what I like the best. So we will do that. So we're going to start out with a small brush, all right? We're going to start with the face of the turtle. So use your water. Mine is off screen here, so don't mind my hand. So the face of these tortoises is very yellowy. It can be yellow with like dark markings mixed in, so you can see the colors here. So we'll start by using a smaller brush. If you can see how small that one is, you have 2 brushes that are small and pointy like that. There's another one right here. So grab one of those, all right? And take some of this paint, the yellow ochre, which is the second one to the right or to the left. Really water it down. And then maybe take a little bit of white. And we have a piece of acrylic paper, and I spilled water on that. Don't mind that. A piece of acrylic paper. And what we'll do is really water it down, almost like it was watercolor, like last week. And then just kind of make a base color. So just wash it over the face. Don't get the eyes. We'll add more details later. So just wash that, water down with a small brush right over the face. So you can go as, you can pause this if you need to. You can go as slow as you want or as quick as you want. Just quickly cover that up. And while we have this mixed up, this watered down yellow, add a little more water and do the same thing with the 3 legs here. Because the legs are yellow, this is yellow ochre, but they're kind of like an earthy yellow, not bright yellow. And these tortoises are really, really beautiful tortoises. They are, like I said before, critically endangered. And they are the most, I think, the most beautiful tortoises in the world. Probably is part of the reason they're endangered, because they are poached for the pet trade. It's a really big problem. So just cover this up. And this is like a base, just a foundation. And we'll get the back leg. So if you keep it really watery, really watered down like a wash, you'll still be able to see the lines under it. All right, and see, if you mess up like that, you just take your finger and wipe it away. So take that same yellow, same brush, smaller brush, this yellow right here, second one to the left. It's called yellow ochre. And We're going to make it a little bit thicker. All right. Put a little bit of water so you can work with it. Same brush, the small brush, and we're going to make certain parts a little more yellow, a little darker. You can see like under the chin, under this line right here, we're going to blend that in. And the neck right about here. See how that kind of gives it a little bit more dimension? And rinse your brush out. And then we're going to take white, same brush. We're going to use some white, mix a little, you can see that in the screen, a little bit of yellow in it. And that is going to act as like highlights. So we're going to hit some certain areas. So the side of the cheek right there, top of the eye, right here. And see this little, I guess it's an eyebrow, right? The turtle eyebrow right here. And this drawing, hit the side of the cheek here. This drawing is based off a turtle I saw, a little more white, when I was in Madagascar, when I was with the Turtle Survival Alliance helping survey radiated tortoises. And we're just going to take some of this pretty much almost white. I'm going to add some wrinkles and some highlights to this. And then a little bit right here. You hear that noise in the background? That's my dog, Rue. And she's barking, even though I told her not to. So take that yellow, and you have black. Move that up there. Get some black. So just make this a little bit darker. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit, it's a lot darker. Water it down. All right, and then we're gonna really like kind of highlight some things. So the beak, the nostrils, and just add some little highlights around the eyes, a little bit darker. And especially the neck. And you can even add some lines and make wrinkles like that. These aren't drawn in, but you can just add those in. And right up against the shell, the carapace, make it darker. And you can go as slow as you want. You can pause this if you have to. Take your time. And you can add a little bit of darker underneath. Really give it some shadows and some dimension to it. Like that. And we're going to do the same thing with the feet. So we already have all these scales are already pre-drawn in. I drew this earlier. And like I said, this is a tortoise I saw in the wild. So right now, somewhere in Madagascar, this tortoise is walking around eating some spiny plants. And just kind of, you can emphasize some of these scales by just adding an outline with that dark yellow. And then kind of in between the toes, if you go right here, the foot kind of folds, so you add a little bit of a line right there. And add a little bit of a shadow on this side of it. So right here, like that. We're going to do the same thing on the second leg. So there's a line right here where the foot kind of folds like that. So add a little bit of a line there. A little bit of shadow, it'll be darker under here. And then you can add some lines. This is, again, is the yellow ochre. This one, and the black, a little bit of black. And it's really watered down. Don't paint too thick. And then we're gonna, underneath here, it's gonna be a little bit darker because it's in shadow. All right, and now we'll do the back leg. So this part would be in shadow. Just like that. So rinse your brush out. And we want to make the legs a little bit more yellow. So take some of the yellow ochre, which is the one we've been using. Really, really water it down. Same brush. So see how thin that is? It's not thick. And then just kind of spread that over everything on the leg. Just like that. The second leg. And I've said this a bunch of times, but I'm moving really quick. You can pause it, you can slow down. I've only painted a few turtles in my life, so I'm actually really fast. All right? So we have that. Now to highlight some of these scales on the legs, I'm gonna take some of the white, hold this out here, some of this, and just a little dab, maybe of the bright yellow, just a little bit. See how little that is? Just a little drop. So add some water, but keep this a little bit thicker. Now use the same small brush, the smallest brush, and see these individual scales. Just put a little dab to kind of highlight some of them. So in this, the left side would be where the light is hitting it. So highlight that. You don't have to do it to every scale. Just see how that adds a little bit of highlight to it, a little bit of dimension, makes it pop a little more. Can even add a little fold here. Add a little bit to this big scale here. And just take your time doing this. Take your time. All right, we're going to move to the right leg here, or the turtle's left leg. And these turtles live, like I said, in southern Madagascar. They live in the spiny forest. In the spiny forest, just like the name suggests, everything has spines. Even plants with leaves have spines on their leaves. And these tortoises are adapted to live there, and they can eat anything. They eat anything that's green, basically. When I was there in the rainy season, so everything is a desert. But when I was in the rainy season, everything is green. And there was flowers in bloom, which we'll be painting here. Green plants. All right, let's add a few highlights here. So see how that adds a little bit to it? We're going to do the same thing to the back foot. So on the bottom of the foot, just add a few dots. Just like that. And leave this area unpainted. Already painted it. On top of that, add a few more dots. And to the right side of this leg, just add a few more. Just like that. There we go. You can add a few more highlights, a little bit of highlight under here. I would say right here in the snout. I guess it's the snout, right? The beak. A few dots up here. And there we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the eye. So we're going to use the same brush. We're going to keep using this little brush, and then eventually we're going to use a bigger brush. But for now, take some of this is called the first one on the left. It's called Burnt Sienna. It's kind of a brown, it's like a rust, brownish red. Add a little touch of black to it because their eyes are kind of dark. Some turtles have red eyes, some have yellow. There's even turtles with blue eyes. So water this down a lot. All right, you see that right here. Small brush. Do this slowly. And just cover in the eye. The whole thing. And rinse your brush out. That sound is me. Rinse your brush out. Then take some of the black. Keep it thick. Keep it darker. And then in the middle, the smallest brush you have, put a little bit of a black dot. All right, it's hard, might be hard to see, but it should be like a really dark, rusty red with a little black dot in the middle. And then to make the eye really pop, we take white, really thick. We don't water it down at all. So take a big clump of white. All right, and then get some on the tip of that brush, the thin brush, and then just put a little tiny dot, just like that. See how that makes it look like it's shining? You can even take some of that white, really pure white, and just add it around the nostrils, and the top of the head. Really make it pop out. So now, we are going to use the brushes, and we're going to paint the carapace. The carapace is the top of the shell. And this one, it's really domed, it's really curved. We're going to use a different brush, just to kind of really, you can see that brush right there. We're going to use black and make it really watery. Let me see if I can move this up a little so you can see it. So, really like watercolor. I'm going to quickly wash in. If you see this, there's markings. These are like sunburst patterns. And if we lose some of these marks, that's fine. But these are on a radiated tortoise. They're black with these bright sunburst patterns on them. That's why they're called radiated tortoises. And we're going to use the brush just really quickly, although it doesn't have to be quickly. It might be quickly when I do it. Just brush it in, kind of go around some of these markings. Like I said, really watered down. And we'll paint these in later. They really, really stand out against this black carapace that these tortoises have. And it doesn't look like they would ever blend in the wild, but it actually really mimics dried grass and vegetation. So if you see them where they belong in the wild, sometimes they're really hard to see. So just keep filling this in. Just like that. And then you don't have to be too careful right now. We just want to kind of keep some of these markings unpainted. So let's put a little dab here. You can take your time. You don't have to go this fast. And then I would just paint this. I'll just paint this bottom while you're at it. All right. And we'll go up here. Each one of these segments is called a scoop. Pretty good name. Fill that in right there. That. I mentioned last month, that the spotted turtles have a spot pattern, which is kind of like a fingerprint. Well, these tortoises have their own sunburst pattern, which is the same thing. Each one has their own unique pattern. So that's like a fingerprint. You can identify a tortoise by his or her pattern. So fill this in here. Fill that. You can keep some of it open. I'll sleeve a little bit. Fill that in there. There we go. The next thing is you can take some of the yellow and some white. A little bit of yellow and white. You see that on the screen here. And then water it down. Use the same brush, the thicker brush. Do it slowly. You can wash this in here underneath. The bottom is called the plastron. Our editor for the Book of Turtles thought that the way she read carapace was carapace, which does sound a lot better than carapace. All right, so take the same small brush that we started with. Take some white. Let me just put this so you can see it. A little scoop of white. Yellow ochre, which is the second to the right, and then the bright yellow. A little more white. And that is good. Mix that up. Now this does not have to be as thin as the wash that we used for the dark part of the carapace. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to just paint in these white areas, and even you can go over the black. And if you look there's a dog fur, which there's a lot of dog furs in my paintings. All right, so see how that goes? In fact, add a little more white. And just fill these in. Try to stick to the lines, but you can even add lines if you want to add like that. Whoa! Just like that. Just fill these in. The important part is they make a sunburst pattern. And a lot of people think birds and mammals are the most beautiful thing in the world, and they are really beautiful, but tortoises and turtles are just as beautiful and just as colorful and really important. So just fill that in right there. And after this, we're going to add some highlights, so you don't have to be perfect right now. We're going to add highlights and shadows. So just get some color in. Under here would be, see there's like a little backwards sunburst pattern under here. So keep going, get the top of it. The paint starts to dry up a little bit, just add a little bit of water. Like that. Keep going. And this is May. It's actually Turtle Month. World Turtle Day is on May, I believe May 23rd. I should have confirmed that before I started talking about it. I'm pretty sure it's May 23rd. Which is the best science holiday of the year. So just keep filling that in. All right, we're almost there. Fill this last section in, and then we're going to take some of the black again and just emphasize some of these yellow colors. All right, take some of that watered down black. See how there's some spaces that are still white and get quite filled in. Just take some of this black, really water it down, more than what I just did. Just kind of fill that in. All right. All right, then you can take some of it and you can highlight the creases, which are already highlighted, but some of them you can do a little bit more, just like that, of each scoop. When I was in Madagascar, I lived in a tiny, tiny little tent, just big enough for me to sleep in. Every night it was about, at least it felt like it was about 120 degrees in it. It was more like a coffin. And it was worth it though, because I got to see so many amazing animals. I saw chameleons, I saw giant centipedes and millipedes. And my very first night in the field, I had a 5-foot Madagascan ground boa slide across the front of my tent. And I even had some of these tortoises walk by my tent. All right, so now we emphasize some of those. We're going to take the same black and just add a few rings to each scoop. Just kind of emphasize them a little bit. Just like that. They don't have to be perfect. Just add a little texture to the tortoise shell. Just like that. sure you can still see it. And this one would be kind of follow the pattern or the shape. They're bigger towards the bottom, they get tighter at the top. These rings can help you tell the age of a young tortoise, but not an old tortoise. After about 15, 16 years, they start to get wear and get smooth, so you can't really tell. But a young tortoise, you can, it's kind of like a tree ring, you can tell up to the age. So add a few here. And we're gonna add a little more water to this black and make this bottom darker. In fact, we're just gonna wash right over the yellow. Just make the whole thing darker. Same little brush. Just like that. And this bottom here, plastron, we just put a quick wash over it. We'll get some more thicker paint and add a little bit, add a little more yellow ochre to it. See that? Add some darker spots, the bottom, and then maybe back here. And then rinse your brush out. Small brush though. Some white, pure white. Just put a highlight, just like that. All right, our tortoise is almost done. Move these brushes over. We're gonna take this bigger, if I can pick it up, bigger rounded brush. Kind of square, a little bit rounded at the top. I'm going to add some highlights to the top of the shell. So, just going to move this over a little bit. Take this brush and some white and a lot of water. Make a wash. Really thin. And the way to see it's thin enough, it shouldn't be like sour cream. It should be like dripping almost. All right, this tortoise would have just kind of wash some of these highlights. That's too much, but it's all right. If you get too much, you just wipe it away. And these add a little bit of highlights, make the shell a little more dimensional. And then we're gonna just take the top here, add some highlights. There we go. All right. That's good for now. We haven't done the toenails yet. We will. But the next thing is the dirt, this part of it. And in Madagascar, in the spiny forest, the dirt is red. It's really red. It almost stains all your clothes. Kind of like rust. Which is fine with me. So take some of that. The first one, sorry, the burnt sienna. This one right here. I don't know if you can see this. Some of the burnt sienna. Really water it down. Add a little touch of yellow ochre, which is not the bright yellow, it's the second one on the left. And a little bit of white. And that is the color of spiny forest dirt. All right, and we're just gonna, from here down, we're just gonna wash this in. See how light that is? See how thin that is? Just kind of fill that in. legs a little bit. Try to be careful. Take your time. You don't have to go super fast. I might even be going too fast for you, which is fine. You don't have to mimic it. Fill that in. Right up to there. Go over the toenails, and we can go over the leaves a little bit. Try not to, but you will a little bit. And we're going to paint those in later, so we can fix that. Thing with acrylics is you can always paint over them. You can always fix anything. Watercolors are a little less forgiving, but acrylic, dry solid, you can paint over them. So we can paint up to here. And down here. And there we go. All right, rinse your brush out. Take the small brush again. And just take some more of that. You just can add some, make sure you can see me here. Add some lines and texture. Some areas would be a little bit darker. Oh, and see, I got the edge of the paper and the paint, but that's all right. So just add some lines and some texture. See some little pebbles, just like that. And I don't know if you can hear that noise in the background. That's my cat making creepy cat noises, but he's allowed to do that. All right, so just keep adding some texture and some variation in color. Underneath here would be much darker. So it would be a shadow from the tortoise. So you can add some darker red, especially under here. So you kind of mimic the shape of the shell or the carapace. Just like that. Fill that in right there. And do the same. We'll add these toenails, different things. There's a couple rocks here. So the dirt is really red, really sandy, really dry in the spiny forest. And the insects are extremely loud. There's cicadas, they were deafening at times. And under my tent, where I'd set up the first few nights, when I took it down, there's a giant centipede under it, which was super exciting. So under here, add a little bit of darker, just to make it look like it's sitting, not floating. There we go. All right. Next thing we'll do is this section back here. This is a log. So we need to make it brown. So you can take the same, let's see if you can see that. You can take the same burnt sienna mixture for the dirt, add a little bit of yellow, add a little bit of black. Suddenly, maybe a teeny tiny touch of green. And suddenly, it's brown. Rinse that brush out. You can use a bigger brush if you want. This one, this is the same one we used for the carapace, the black on the shell. Water it down a lot. And take your time. See, that's a little too thick. I don't want it so dark. Add a little bit more water. Just fill that in around there. I can see that the sun is starting to creep in, so I'm going to pause this for a second. After I do this and put the blinds up. But first we'll do this. All right. Just fill it in all around. Oops, negative space here. Right up to this plant. This is an aloe plant. Aloes are everywhere. And there were lemurs and dung beetles and snakes, and it's an amazing place. It's like stepping back in time. All right, fill up until there. All right, we'll stop for a second. Okay, take the small brush again. Take that same, I just put the shades up, that's why it's darker suddenly. Take the same brown you just used and add a little bit of black to it. Still pretty watery, still pretty thin, and just add some dark lines to it, which you can do it in the bottom here, which is this kind of mimic wood grain. Just like that. Take your time on the bottom. Add some lines just like that. All right. The next thing we want to do is paint these sticks in the background and the sticks of these leaves, sticks that the leaves are coming off of. So we can use the same color, but we want to make it much lighter, so add some white to it, because lighter things, let's move this over here, lighter things kind of push to the background, and darker things move forward. So you can just put like a light, there we go. And the plants in the spiny forest are pretty wild looking. You don't see them anywhere else in the world. Some of them have leaves that have spikes all over them, and the leaves with spikes all over them protect themselves. That's my dog Rue. Don't mind her. All right, now that I got her to stop barking, we're gonna paint, well, maybe not. We're gonna paint these sticks here. All right, we're gonna paint these the same kind of brown. Small brush. All right, so take the same brown, paint these sticks in, just like that. Happy little sticks. And then right there, just got some in my hand. And then we're gonna use some of this green. We're gonna paint the background plants first. So we'll start with the aloe vera. I probably just could have said aloe, but it sounds better if you say aloe vera. So green, bright yellow, and for the aloe, a little bit of white. Kind of make it like a minty color. And then we're just gonna do a quick wash over these. Stay within the lines if you can. Oop, and see, I just said that and I didn't. But you can take your finger and quickly wipe it away, so it's pretty easy to correct. And just fill that in, just like that. And then take this right up to the tortoise's shell, or behind it. And then paint this in. Just fill this in with this lighter green. Just like that. All right, and then we're gonna make a few of the leaves a little bit darker so they're not all the same color, and it's not just flat. So this one, we're gonna make, because this is the underside of this leaf, we're gonna make this one a little bit darker. So add a little more of the same mixture, right? And then this section of this leaf, darker. So see how the top is lighter, the bottom is darker? Make this bottom half darker so this leaf stands out. Same thing, we're going to make this bottom half darker, and then this leaf can be a little bit darker underneath. And that way it gives a little bit of variation to the color. Just like that. Okay, take the same green that we just used for the aloe, add a tiny bit of yellow, all right? Some water. And then we're just gonna paint these leaves in. So this, you can just follow the shape of them. Just like that. So it's a little more yellowy, but it's pretty much the same color. And just take your time filling these in. Just like that, and then fill this one in here. And the green will really like help pop the tortoise out so that the warm colors contrast with the green. All right. And then this bottom one. I'm just gonna move this out of the way for a second. Make sure you can still see this. And just we're gonna fill these in. Just like that. And here in New Hampshire, it is getting pretty warm, and turtles are out, and frogs are out, and salamanders are out, so spring is coming. Let's fill this one in here. All right, top on. Almost done. And take your time. Don't go as fast. You don't want to. And I'll add a few highlights and darker spots after the fact to make these look a little more real. Almost there. Let's fill these last few in. Just like that. Ooh. These top little ones. All right. And then this last one. Cool. All right. Let me drag this back in here. So we have the green we just used. Add some more pure green from your paints here. The only green there is. Same brush, tiny brush. So it's watered down a bit. Kind of the consistency of sour cream. If that makes any sense to you. And we're gonna just add a few lines to some of these. Just like that. Just to give like the scale of the leaves. There we go. And right here. We're going to add a few highlights. So take some of the yellow and a tiny bit of, not the yellow, sorry, some of the white and a tiny bit of yellow. Just add a few highlights. Oh, no, what was I supposed to do? All right, just water it down a little bit. If you always mess up, you just wipe it away with your finger. All right. Next, we're going to do this plant right here. So this is going to be really green. I'm going to use yellow, brush full of yellow, brush full of green. That's it. So it's going to be a very bright yellowy green, much different from this and this. All right, well, maybe even a little more yellow. Just fill that in right there. You see how like the difference of color, variation kind of separate the two? Just like that. And then we're going to make this one really yellow as well. Not to make things difficult. So we're going to use the same thing, add even a little more yellow to it. A little bit of water. And just kind of brush that in. And this is like yellowy, orangey green. It's a very Madagascan color. Fill these in. Up here. And then, it's got paint all over my hand. Do the same thing, make it a little thicker. So take yellow, green, and then I'm gonna move this again. Fill that stem. right, and then we'll take a little more green, make it a little darker. Use that. To kind of, might hear that noise in the background. There's another noise. There's always noises. This is another animal. That's a lizard that we're watching. It's a bearded dragon. All right. If you could hear the noise in the background, but it was this guy. All right, the last thing we have to do, well, I guess we still have to do your toenails, but one of the last things is a flower. So let me bring this palette paper back. Take the small brush again. This one. And this flower is yellow, so take some of the yellow, the pure yellow, and white. So one brush of yellow, one brush of white. Mix it with some water. It can be pretty thick if you want. And then, I'm just going to move this away again. Just paint that in. Kind of complements the yellow and the tortoise. So just take your time. So we have that, and then we want to make the center a little darker. So take some of the burnt sienna and mix that in with the yellow. Just like that. Even highlight some of that. There we go. So the toenails are pretty yellow. We're going to use this one, yellow ochre. Move this back in. Push that away. Hope you can see that. Yes. So water it down a little bit. Just use the yellow, a little bit of white. And paint these. Oops. If you mess up, just wipe it away. So we paint them yellow, and then we'll take white and highlight. So just pure white. Just gonna highlight them. See? Just highlight this one. See how that makes them pop a little more? And we're almost done, but we're going to take some more white and we're going to highlight some of the shell, the carapace. So just kind of add a little bit of, it's not super thick. See how that adds a little more texture to it? Just like that. Some more white. Add some a little bit here. And maybe a little bit up here. And we can do it, you know, if we want, we can add some highlights to anything really. So we can add some highlights to this stump in the background. There we go. And I would say maybe a little bit of highlights to the ground here. And maybe some white. You can add a few highlights to these like little pebbles. Just like that. Just to give it a little more texture. Ooh, make it look like dirt. Madagascan red dirt. There you go. A little more here. And you can just keep going if you want to, but we will cut it off after this. Right here. All right, and that is acrylic. So thank you for tuning in. And this month, May, is Turtle Month. World Turtle Day is May 23rd. So we will be celebrating turtles all month long. And next month, we will have a new species that we will be painting with a different medium, which is the type of paints we use. And I'm excited for you to tune in. And thank you for subscribing. And I will catch you next month. So thank you.